Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Glad that you are here. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. It's good to see you all. Scott, appreciate those kind words. I'm glad this has been a blessing for you. Dale, welcome back. It's been a while. And to the rest of you, glad you're here. So we are planning, I am planning on this Saturday, to hold our next Cross to Crown Partners meeting. I haven't sent the emails out yet, so you should be getting those later today or tomorrow, but just wanted to let you know we'll do it at 10:30 Mountain Time. So for those of you who are partners, be looking for that email in the next couple days and mark your calendar. And for the rest of you, if you'd like to join us, you can become a monthly supporter of Cross to Crown Ministries, become a partner, and you can join us for, it's usually 1.5 to 2 hour Zoom meeting about once a month, 4 to 6 weeks, something like that. And we talk about the current series, and then wherever the conversation goes, we talk about it. We always have a very encouraging, lively conversation. So if you want to join us, sign up, go to crosstocrown.org and go to CTC Partners, or Partners, I think it's called, or there's a link here in the show notes. We'd love to have you. All right, so we are, Chris Zupancic says, here for the most important YouTube channel, probably the most important series ever. Yeah, I have been saying that in certain circles, just because as we head toward Revelation, it is so important to see Zechariah, and both of these biblical documents, I think, set a very different worldview of our age and the church from what most believe. So, yep, I have been using some of that word, so I appreciate that, Chris. All right, so we're in Zechariah. Today we're going to look at chapter 10, but I do want to go back to a portion of chapter 9 and just set the context. And I realized in my zeal to make sure that we considered how the New Testament interprets some of these things, I'm tempted to go there a lot. I am going to stick to the Old Testament context most of the rest of the way through Zechariah. So I'm going to I'm not going to go very often to what I think is New Testament fulfillment. Now, I probably won't be able to resist entirely, but I really do want us to sort of, experience, feel the weight of what Zechariah is revealing to his generation and what they were expecting based on these prophecies to set us up for how the New Testament interprets it. So just forewarning on that. All right, so back to Zechariah 9, verse 8. We read, God says, I will set up a structure, or it's an elevated place. Oftentimes this is a fort, for my house. So the house would be God's temple, and he's going to protect his temple. He's going to set up this structure so that no one shall pass through or return. And no longer will anyone come up against them to drive them out. For now I have seen with my own eyes. So God's eyes are on his house, and he's going to set up the structure and protect it, and no one's going to come against it and drive them out of it and just pass through it, destroy it, that kind of thing. So there is protection for the house. And then the famous passage that we know is referring to Jesus, but we're not going there yet. Rejoice greatly, O Zion. Proclaim, O daughter Jerusalem. That'll be important to remember who he's talking about here. Zion, Jerusalem. Behold, your king comes to you. Just and salvific is he. This king that's coming, he does the right thing. He's just, and he saves his people. So the house, the temple is going to be protected. The city is going to be saved, and the king is coming, and he's going to rule in righteousness. He's going to be meek and riding on a beast of burden and a young foal, that would be a donkey. And this king, will utterly destroy chariots from Ephraim and cavalry from Jerusalem. And the battle bow shall be destroyed, and there shall be an abundance of peace from nations, and he shall reign over the waters as far as the sea, and the rivers at the exits of the earth. So he's going to destroy the military weaponry, presumably because they're not going to be needed anymore. And there will be an abundance and peace from the nations. And his reign will extend across the world. Right? So that's what they were expecting. He goes on, you also, speaking here of Zion and Jerusalem, you also, by the blood of the covenant, or a covenant, have sent forth your prisoners from the pit that has no water. Right? We talked about this. There are prisoners of Jerusalem who are in pits, and they're going to be taken out of those pits. In their context, you can imagine what they would be hearing in this, that some of their citizens would be, who are in exile, would be in pits, and they're going to come out of those pits. And you shall sit in a stronghold, O prisoners of the gathering, and in place of 1 day of your alien residence, I will restore to you double. So when this king comes, he's going to deliver prisoners from these pits, from these strongholds, and he's going to bless them double for the suffering they've experienced. See that? In the place of 1 day, your alien residence, you have been aliens in another land, and I'm going to give you double what you lost. For I stretched you tight, O Judah, a bow for myself. I filled Ephraim and will raise up your children, O Zion, against the children of the Greeks, and I will stroke you like a warrior's sword. So now Judah and Judah's children, or Zion's children, are going to be God's instrument, his weapon, against the Greeks. Very interesting. So on the one hand, he said, I'm going to destroy these weapons of warfare. But now he's saying, I'm going to take you, Judah, you, Ephraim, and your children, and you are going to be my sword-like implement against the children of the Greeks. And I mentioned when we were going through this, the Greeks were not a significant nation yet. So it's very interesting that he speaks of them conquering the Greeks down the road. And the Lord shall be over them and shall go forth like a lightning bolt. The Lord Almighty will trumpet with the trumpets. That's a call to war. That's what they use trumpets for often there. And come with his menacing tempest. So he's going to roll over them like a storm, blowing his trumpets, his call to battle, and going forth like a lightning bolt as he rules and reigns over the Greeks. The Lord Almighty will protect them, and they shall consume them and bury them with sling stones. So these pronouns could get tricky, but his people, the sons of Judah and Zion, they are going to consume the children of the Greeks and bury them with sling stones. They'll drink them empty like wine and fill their altar like saucers. They're going to have complete victory. It's like they're going to drink them up like finishing a glass of wine, and their altar is going to be filled like with blood kind of thing. And on that day, the Lord will save them, his people, like sheep. Now, this is the part I wanted to get to. This is the first mention, I think it's the first, it's certainly the first in the recent verses, of the Lord saying he's going to save his people like sheep. This is going to be an important metaphor for the rest of Zechariah, that his people are like sheep, and the Lord is going to save them. For sacred stones roll on his land. We talked about that. That's gold and so on. Because if anything of his is good, and if anything of his is fair, there will be grain for the young men and sweet-smelling wine for maidens. So he's going to rescue his people, similar to what he's been saying all along, like sheep, and he's going to bless them. There will be plenty of food for the young men and wine for the women, the maidens, that kind of thing. All right, everybody tracking with that? That's a review. We've been over this, but I just want to catch the context as we move on and focus on that sheep part. Someone Freiser, I apologize if I'm saying that incorrectly, says, "Did he speak of the Messiah?" Yeah, we covered this last week, but yeah, this whole thing is about the Messiah, the King coming on the donkey. That's the Messiah. That's Jesus. We know that now. All right, so chapter 10. Ask rain from the Lord in the early and latter season. All right, so he just said there will be grain for the young men, sweet-smelling wine for maidens. And now he says, pray and ask the Lord to bless early and later or latter. The harvest will come abundantly in early season and the last season. Ask for the Lord to send rain so that these crops can grow. The Lord has produced representations and will give to them winter rain to each vegetation in the field. So ask for his prosperity in your harvest, and the Lord will give it. This word representations is interesting. It's the word from which we get our word fantasia, because that's a direct transliteration from the Greek. It can mean a fantasy type figure, or in this case, I think it simply means a manifestation of what will indicate that God's going to give them rain. I think it's probably lightning, thunder, that kind of thing. But anyway, he says very clearly, ask for the abundance and the Lord will give it to you. For the speakers, the utterers, the speakers uttered, these are because it's, for the speakers uttered troubling things and the diviners lying visions. So with the speakers parallel to diviners, these would be sorcerer kinds of speakers. So there are people in their midst who are claiming to be discerning what's happening in the spiritual realm, or the I almost said mysterious realm, but not in the true sense. These are sorcerers, those who read signs. We saw this idea of diviners earlier. If you remember, Joshua the high priest was told that he would always have diviners in the heavenly council. So here are diviners and sign watcher types who are speaking troubling things and lying. And they were speaking false dreams and were consoling with vanities. So we're introduced to another problem, if you will, for the people. Not only are they in exile and imprisoned, some of them, but now they have these messengers, these folks who come along and say, we can interpret what is happening. We are reading the signs, and they are lying to the people. They are deceiving them, manipulating them, troubling them. Do you see that? This is a very different threat than anything we've seen so far. Therefore, the Judah, they were removed like sheep and were mistreated, for there was no healing. So Judah, Zion, Jerusalem, the different labels for God's people, they're going to be in pits without water. They're going to be captured or in exile, as they already are. And now there's going to be these false speakers, false utterers who speak false dreams and make up empty promises to console the Lord's people. And they're going to be removed and mistreated, no healing. They're going to be removed like sheep. Tracking? It's pretty simple, right? God says, my anger was provoked against the shepherds. So make that connection. Who are these false consolers and diviners? It's the shepherds. The shepherds of the Lord's people of Jerusalem, Judah, Zion, the shepherds are mistreating the sheep and deceiving them and lying to them, claiming that they know truth, that they know what the signs indicate God is doing. God says, I was provoked against the shepherds, and I will have concern for the lambs. So do you see the difference here? The enemy through chapter 9 was the Greeks and the nations, those who had conquered Judah. Now there's an enemy within Judah. It's the shepherds. See that? So important. So important. Everybody tracking with that? Do you see? There's the enemy from without, the heathens, and there's the enemy within, the shepherds who are mistreating the sheep. Give me a thumbs up or a yes or something if you see that here. I mean, this may be so obvious you're wondering why I keep emphasizing it, but it's so important for what's coming to see this. Fraser, is that how you say? I apologize. It doesn't seem right, but I don't know how to say it. Dear brother, I usually follow your teachings of scriptures, and that was very good. May the Lord bless you, and may you be strengthened in ministry. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. William Dean and Kathy say, sounds like today. Yes, but let's not go there. All right, everybody's following. Good. That you'll probably figure out where this is heading, but try to stay in the context. So he's forewarning them. Right? When this king comes riding on a donkey to rescue them, to deliver them, to save them like sheep, he's going to have to rescue them from the shepherds. And I will have concern for the lambs, and the Lord God Almighty will have concern for his flock, the house of Judah, and will make them like his comely horse in battle. So he's going to be angry with the shepherds. He will show concern for his flock, and Judah will be like his mighty horse, beautiful horse in battle. I'm just going to highlight this as well, which will come into play a little bit later, not today. Judah is called out as his house. There's no mention of the house of Israel here. Just file that away for a moment. All right, so God's going to be concerned about his flock, the house of Judah. He's going to be angry against the shepherds, and Judah is going to be like his mighty horse in battle. From it, that is from Judah, he took perspective, meaning he looked at them. He looked at them with concern. He took his perspective of Judah. And from Judah, from it, he drew up in battle order. And from Judah, was a bow with fury. From Judah, everyone who marches out will come together. So there's going to be a battle in which Judah is the Lord's weapon as God looks upon them against the shepherds. And they, Judah, shall be like warriors trampling clay in the streets during battle. And they shall fight, for the Lord is with them, and riders on horses shall be put to shame. So very similar to what we saw a little bit ago. Judah is going to be the Lord's army, and they're going to be successful. I will strengthen the house of Judah, and I will save the house of Joseph, also from the tribe of Judah. And I will settle, well, that's not true, is it? That's not true. Strike that. What I have in mind here is it's still not the house of Israel that is in play here. And I will settle them because I have loved them, and they shall be as though I had not turned them away, for I am the Lord their God, and I will listen to them. So when all of this takes place, God is going to strengthen and save Judah and Joseph. He loved them. He's not going to turn them away. He's going to be their God, and they will turn to him, and he will listen to them. So success is coming. Rob says, I wonder why that could be, huh? Amy says, sounds like Ezekiel 34, the shepherds. Yeah, very good. And they shall be like the warriors of Ephraim, and their heart shall rejoice as with wine, and their children shall see it and be glad. Their heart shall rejoice in the Lord. So again, try not to go too far into what you think this is in the future here. Just put yourself in the original shoes, the original audience. The Lord says he's going to give his favor to Judah, and they're going to be successful in battle. They're going to be strong. He's going to listen to them. They will call out to him. They'll be like these warriors, and they're going to have success. Look, they're going to rejoice as with wine, celebrating, partying, and their children shall look back and see how God raised up Judah and Ephraim to conquer the enemies. And they're going to be glad, and their heart is going to rejoice in the Lord. Peter says the house of Joseph is applicable to the house of Israel. What would you base that on? I will signal for them and receive them, for I shall redeem them. And they shall be as numerous as they were. So the Lord is going to give the sign. He's going to receive these folks, Judah, Ephraim, Joseph, and he's going to redeem them, and then they're going to multiply. They will be as numerous as they were. And I will sow them among peoples. So again, you're thinking about the original audience here. Okay, there's going to be battles, but Judah's going to win, and their children are going to look back and remember and rejoice and celebrate. And then the children are going to be sown in like you sow seed among, other plants and things. They're going to be sown in among the peoples, and the Lord's going to redeem them, and they're going to be numerous like they were before the exile. Yes, so Ephraim and Manasseh were his sons, yes, but I think it's important, as we'll see, why he does not call them the house of Israel. You're setting up an interesting distinction coming. He shows favor to Ephraim, to Joseph, but he doesn't talk about Israel. So just hold that off for a moment. I will sow them among peoples. Those far away shall remember me, and there they shall rear their children and return. And I will bring them back from the land of Egypt and receive them from the Assyrians. This would have conjured up in their minds the original Exodus, right, where they multiplied there in slavery, and then the Lord rescued them from Egypt. That's what he says, I'm going to bring them back from the land of Egypt. And now he's using the more recent conquering of the northern kingdom from the Assyrians. Again, he doesn't name Israel, but that's who was conquered by the Assyrians. So both of these would indicate a rescue from those who were oppressing and had conquered Judah. So they're going to be brought back from those enslavements. And I will bring them to, the Greek here is different, but the Hebrew is Gilead. You've probably heard of Gilead. And to Lebanon, not even one of them shall be left behind. Now, I know what you're thinking. Left behind. Nope, this has nothing to do with dispensational rapture theology. Um, Gilead and Lebanon were lush forest-like areas, wide open spaces kind of thing. Lebanon was known for its huge cedar trees and things, and that'll come into play tomorrow when we look at chapter 11. I will bring them to Gilead, to Lebanon, so they're going to be rescued from slavery and brought to this forest, prosperous, fertile region. And they shall pass through a narrow sea, and they shall strike the waves in the sea, and all the depths of the rivers shall dry up. Again, now using the imagery of the Exodus, where they go through the narrow sea, and then striking the waves. That might even also have a reference to Joshua leading them into Canaan's land, the promised land. Right? So they're going to leave Egypt miraculously, leave their slavery to Egypt, and enter into the promised land. And all the pride of the Assyrians shall be taken away, and the scepter of Judah shall be removed. So they're going to be freed from their oppressors and their masters. And I will make them strong in the Lord their God, and they shall boast in his name, says the Lord. All right, so you see all of this using imagery with which they would have been very familiar. Those periods of when they were conquered and enslaved. And in one case, Egypt, they were rescued miraculously. You think of the 10 plagues, think about Moses leading them out, and all the things the Lord did to show his power. And then they come to the Red Sea. He parts the sea. They're able to walk through, and then the enemies are destroyed in the river itself, or the sea. And then the next generation, when they are allowed to go into Canaan's land, they cross the Jordan, similar miracle there, and they go conquer their enemies. And then more recently, the Assyrians, who had conquered the northern kingdom, their power is going to be removed, and the Lord's people are going to come back to Judah, Jerusalem, and they're going to prosper and thrive, like as in Gilead and Lebanon with all their rich forestry and so on. So what would they have been thinking and expecting when this king comes, when he comes riding on a donkey? They are going to raise up a great army, and they are going to do battle, and they are going to be victorious, and all the enslaved Jews from all over the world are going to come back, and they're going to prosper and abound in God's goodness and blessing. They're going to rejoice with all of the harvesting and the wine, and it's going to be great celebration. Now, again, I don't want to go too far into fulfillment here, but it's Christmas time, so think about when this child is born, the King of the Jews, and word starts spreading through Bethlehem, Jerusalem, and so on, that the Messiah has been born. Think about their expectations. He's coming. And think about a few years later, or many years later, when he rides in on a donkey after performing miracles. The expectation would have been he's going to raise up an army from Jerusalem and conquer their enemies and bring in the age of abundance and peace, right? With real military dominance as his reign goes from sea to sea into the ends of the earth. That was their expectation. Everybody following that? All right. I know this is pretty simple, but it's important to see this as we get into chapters 11 and following. All right. Looks like you're all tracking along just fine. I don't see a lot of comments and questions here. Daniel's asking a question about Revelation 12. We'll get there. We'll get there. Oh, by the way, that does remind me. Somebody, I don't know who it was, somebody asked me a while back if the two sons of fresh oil back in chapter 4 were the two witnesses, and I think I very quickly said no. Well, I was reading Revelation again on Saturday morning, and I realized I may have pulled the trigger too quickly. I get asked a question about that fairly often, and I assumed what you were asking was that. But as I was reading this, reflecting on it, I thought, I think they asked me, is this correlated to those two witnesses? And I may have too quickly said no. So just whoever that was, I want to apologize. Stay tuned. We'll get there. We'll get there eventually. It's funny how that stuck in my mind when somebody asked it, and I thought I would just mention it. Oink says, is that why the apostles asked if Jesus would restore the kingdom to Israel? Yeah, right? That's what their expectations were. Yeah, very good. Daniel says, the CC claims it was Mary, which seems odd to me. Agreed. William wants to know about Revelation 6. We'll get there. Oh, Rob, you're the one that asked? Good. Well, thank you. And I apologize for mishearing your question. So we'll get there. Stay tuned. All right. Read ahead if you want and see if you can follow where this is going in Zechariah. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. Grace and peace to you.